Hi. It's heartbreaking to make this video, but I really want to mark and memorialize the passing of a great author and friend. It was publicly announced earlier today that the writer Edmund White has died, and he was a really prolific author. He wrote many books, and I want to talk about the impact that his work has had upon the world and its influence and meaning for me personally. But more than that, I want to discuss my personal relationship with him because I was very fortunate to know Ed for many years, and this isn't any great brag. He was an incredibly gregarious man, so charming, so outgoing. He had many friends, and he was also incredibly kind, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have known him. And so first, I want to discuss about when I first met Ed. I met him early in the 2000s when he had published his novel, The Married Man. And at an event for this book, I got to chatting with Ed, and then we started communicating and meeting up. And I feel very fortunate to have developed a friendship with both Ed and his husband, Michael, over a long period of time, and they very kindly invited me to New York to stay with them at their apartment. And there was an incident early on in my years of moving to London when I was a fledgling wannabe writer. I'd published a first novel, and I communicated a lot with both Ed and Michael about writing and the process of writing. And Ed was so generous to emerging writers and encouraging to them both in a supportive way in reading and talking about writing, but also in a material way, because when an incident occurred early on when I was living in London, and when I got a message in the middle of my workday from a neighbor of mine saying, "I'm sorry, your apartment has been broken into, and my computer was stolen." And this was what I kept all my writing on, and like a fool, I didn't back up any of my work. So the loss of this computer meant a loss of a lot of my work and writing and things that I had been working on for a while. And just coincidentally, after I got this phone call from my neighbor, I got an email from Ed just chatting, and so I wrote him back saying I just got the news that my computer was stolen with all of my work on it, and how upset I was about this. And he immediately wrote back and said, I really want to help and support you. I know you're not earning much at your job, and I want to help you get a new computer. And he immediately sent me a check to help me buy a new computer, so I could continue writing. And the immense generosity of that, to lend out a hand like that and do that for someone that, we were friends, but he had many friends, and it was so unexpected and so incredibly kind of him. And I was very fortunate to meet up with him over a number of times over many years, and had lots of wonderful communication with him. I mean, really, there's nobody in the world I would rather sit down and have a good gossip with than Ed, because he was so funny, so charming, and knew so many people to chat about literature, and he was also such a great reader, and was so analytical about literature. He could talk about books endlessly, but also about people and authors, and he was such a wonderful conversationalist. And I think that really comes through in so much of his writing. And I remember a great incident early on when this is 2003, I think, when his historical novel Fanny, a Fiction, came out. And personally, this is one of my favorite books by him, even though it's not one of his most well known. This novel, which examines the lives of two women who were both called Fanny, and one of whom went to the States and found an intentional community, and about these very different these very different women and their relationship to each other. And I was very kindly invited to the launch of this event, and during this event I was chatting with Ed and Michael, and Nigella Lawson was also there, and Ed turned to me at one point and he said, "Oh, that terrible reporter, he just won't leave poor Nigella alone." And that was so sweet. But also, this is a novel that he signed it for me, and he dedicated this novel to Joyce Carol Oates, who is my favorite author, and who is also notoriously an incredibly prolific author. And I remember Ed talking about Joyce's influence and assistance to him when he was writing this historical novel, and he had not really written historical fiction before, and Joyce advised him that when he's doing research about the time period in which he's writing about, he needs to be doing the writing, the actual writing, while he is doing this research, because she said, if you do all of the research and then go to sit down and write the book, you'll have forgotten a lot of that research. And that's a kind of tangible way that she influenced him in writing this book. But in my own personal experiences with both Ed and Joyce, because they were really great friends, they were colleagues at Princeton University. And one time when I came to New York and I was staying with Ed and Michael in their apartment, and Ed knew how much I loved Joyce's work, and so Joyce was doing an event, a poetry reading in New York, one of the evenings while I was staying there, and because Ed knew I was such a fan, he took me along to this event, and then there was dinner with a small group of people after the event, including with Joyce Carol Oates, and he arranged the table so that I was sat between him and Joyce Carol Oates, and so throughout this entire meal, everyone at the table is having a conversation, and sorry, I'm getting so emotional talking about this and remembering this, but I was so nervous. I could barely say anything for the entire meal because I was so in awe of being sat there with both Joyce and Ed, who were writers that I admire so much. And it's just a wonderful memory, even though I know I probably came across as very awkward, but it was a really beautiful moment that I really treasure. And I also absolutely love Ed's novel, A Saint from Texas, the story of two sisters who are estranged from each other, and who are incredibly different from each other, but it talks about their connection with each other over a long period of time, and a kind of uneasy reunion that they have. And so this is another novel of his that I would highly recommend reading, his novel Carroll. I just wanted to show this because I remember when Ed signed this for me, and in most of the books I have of his that he signed for me, he would write to Eric and say love Ed, and which was always really special. But then he just, with this novel, he just signed it, and I was like, oh, you don't want to dedicate it to me as well? And he said, well, no, I'll just put my signature, because then it'll be worth more when you want to sell it. Which of course I'm never gonna sell this book. But yeah, I thought that was such a charming thing for him to say. And a few years ago, I was very glad and fortunate that Ed agreed to make a video with me over Zoom and talk about Denton Welch's novel, and we made a video talking about this very unusual writer, and it was really lovely conversation and great to get his insight into this. And so I'll put a link to that interview below if you want to hear us chatting about this. And I wish I'd made more videos with Ed talking about his own work, and because he was such a generous person. I mean, he's so supportive to fledgling gay magazines and gay writers, and so encouraging to them. And so for me personally, I mean, before I'd ever even met him, I'd read probably his most famous novel, A Boy's Own Story, which had such an impact on me when I first read it. The story of a young boy grappling with his sexuality and his place in the world. And this is so beautifully and elegantly written and capturing that experience from such an inward and new perspective. This novel was really groundbreaking, and Edmund White was part of a group of gay writers known as the Violet Quill that included authors such as Andrew Holleran and Felice Picano, who Picano also sadly died recently, but were writers creating work about gay experience for a gay audience. And that was something so revolutionary about Ed's work, that it really spoke to other gay men when a lot of writers previously had written about gay experience, but it was more for a heterosexual audience. And Ed was so open in talking about sex and his own personal sex life in much of his work. He commented to me once about how his life, and I'm sure he made this statement many times, that his is the most ridiculously over-examined life, because he wrote about his own life and experiences and so much of his work. And he and his husband, Michael Carroll, they were in an open relationship, and Michael Carroll is a very talented writer as well, and I'd really encourage you to read his work as well. But Ed wrote about his many sexual experiences and encounters with other men, and it felt like every single time that I talked to Ed, he had met some new man, and or he had just got out of a relationship. I remember when he said to me once, "Oh, Eric, I met this man. He's the love of my life, and he broke my heart. But I also just met this other man." And so I think he had one of the most flexible hearts ever, that he met and fell in love with so many people. And I don't think that this was in any kind of like frivolous way, but he was absolutely sincere in all of his emotions and openness to so many people, both sexually and friendship wise. And he wrote about this and documented this in a lot of his work, and so captures something about gay experience that I don't think anyone else has, and the fluctuations and contradictions of it, and wrote about it in such a dynamic way, and that he was one of the great chroniclers of the past 50 or so years, and that or more, and yeah, his talent as a stylist to capture an idea and sensation and exchange in his work was supreme. His writing is so beautiful, and I find it so touching reading it, and the ideas he explores, his engagement with literature and the literary world was so beautiful. And so I'm really going to miss him. I mean, we really haven't been in touch much in recent years, and but there was a period when we were in a lot more frequent contact, and the way he has touched so many lives, the way that he has influenced and inspired so many people with all of his many great books, I think it's incredibly admirable and inspiring, and I really loved him. He was such a wonderful man. So I would love to hear if you have read any of Edmund White's work, and your thoughts and feelings about him, or if you had ever got to meet the man himself, as so many people did. I would love to hear about that and to continue sharing our stories about him, because I'm sure there are so many stories about Ed that are out there, and which we'll be able to continue to share in the years to come, but also wonderfully, we have this fantastic library of his work to continue to read and enjoy in the years to come. So thank you for watching me talk about this, and I hope you're doing well, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.